Today on The Grid, we're talking about how to deal with a bad photo critique. Skyping in today is my co-host. He's a Justin Bieber fan. He wants to go to Japan. He drives a sedan. He likes cheese from a can. He's got a long lifespan. He loves Jackie Chan. He's been to Spokane. He likes his pies pecan. He rocks to Duran Duran. It's the real Rocket Man, Mr. Erik Kuna. We've got some cool news to kick off the show. We've got some delightful prizes, too, and it all starts in just 21.4 seconds.
The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the tripod alternative that is changing the world. Everybody has a Platypod. You should, too. Go to platypod.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another live episode of The Grid. Scott Kelby here. Joining me via Skype is Mr. Kuna. Mr. Kuna, you there?
I'm here. I hope you can hear me.
There he is. Yeah, there he is. He's actually in space.
I'm in deep space.
All right. So Mr. Kuna actually is back from a trip. And when you come back from a trip and you work here, you have to spend a couple of days by yourself in lone solitude, just as punishment. Just strictly, it's not a health thing. It's just as punishment. So he went out to the Badlands, right?
I did. I went to the Badlands.
And you were a speaker at a conference while you were out there?
Yeah. We were just helping people with their photography, you know.
That's a cool thing. Anyway, we're glad to have you back, Mr. K. And so today our topic is how to deal with a bad photo critique. And so we got the idea for doing this after our last round of critiques, where some people did not deal well with their bad photo critiques. It upset some folks.
Which we have to be honest, Scott, that is very commonplace, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's something that happens a lot.
Oh yeah, it wasn't just last week. It happens like every time we do a critique, somebody or multiple people will either comment in the comments or send us a DM or an email or a Facebook comment or if they know us, a text, and they're unhappy. And they're very unhappy. Now, you realize I don't know the names of the people whose things we're critiquing. It was the whole idea behind doing the blind critique is that you're not embarrassing someone, right? The whole idea behind a critique in the first place is just to help. It really is. It's to move you along. And we know that most people won't give you an honest critique. So we decided, okay, we're going to give an honest critique. We're going to tell it like it is without being mean, because there's sometimes Erik and I just want to be like, what? But we don't, because that doesn't help. Anyway, we're going to get to all that today. We want to hear your comments as well. And because I know that you're going to have a lot of thoughts on this as we unpack all this. There is some important stuff coming up. Let's get some news stuff out of the way real quick right up front. First bit of news is we're giving away stuff. We're giving away today, yes, the Platypod multi-accessory kit. I know that a lot of you have Platypods. We've got a great accessory kit that we're going to be giving away here today. Plus, if you win the accessory kit, you get a coupon for 50% off anything at the Platypod store. So you kind of get a double win. We're going to be giving away my Lightroom 7-point system, right? So there we go, Lightroom 7-point system. We're going to be giving away this book. We're going to be giving away a copy of DxO's Nick 4 collection. Great collection of plugins. We're going to give away Mr. Kuna's favorite new speed demon of a plugin, which is the On1 No Noise AI, which is a very, very good.
And I will say, Scott, I started to do some tests. It's actually way faster the more I throw at it.
It's way even faster, huh?
Yeah, it's getting 10 times faster than Topaz.
Yeah, and Topaz does a good job, but there is a lot of waiting. It's a waiting game. A lot of waiting. So we're going to give one of those away today. And so Erik, tell them how they even enter this contest to give away and win today.
Yeah, it's real easy. Just go into the comments, tell us what you'd like to win. Also, just tell us if you have any questions, comments. If you don't like the critiques you've got over the years, make sure and let us know because we love to hear it.
We love to hear it. It's our favorite thing. All right, so that's one bit of news. Okay, another bit of news. This is a big one because we have not announced it yet, but today we are officially announcing our next online 2-day conference. It is the Portrait Photography Conference, and it's coming up November 2nd and 3rd. It's our last conference of the year, and we're going to take all of the wonderful things that we have learned in all of our other conferences for the year and make this one our best one yet and end the year really strong with this conference. We're very excited about it. We've got some incredible instructors, and we want you to be a part of it. It's 2 full days. We've got all kinds of sessions for you, and of course you get the archive, a replay of it for an entire year. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, don't click that button apparently. Anyway, so the website needs a little work, but we still got over a month to get that ironed out. But anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be great. And I've got some nice classes cooked up for you, but we've got some incredible instructors, household names in portrait photography. So, and some new folks that we're bringing into the fold that people love from Kelby One instructors. So it's going to be great. We're very excited about it. And today's the official launch. So we'll have a little teaser for you coming up a little later in the show, but that's exciting. All right. Next is, did you guys see what happened yesterday? Adobe did a sneak peek of the next version of Lightroom. In particular, it was a sneak peek of one particular feature that is an absolute game changer. It shuffles the deck on Lightroom, and it's one of those things that will make you not have to go to Photoshop nearly as much. And it is their new masking feature. So they demoed it. One of the product managers, first off, the Adobe Camera Raw team, because this new masking feature will be in Camera Raw, in Lightroom Classic, in Lightroom Desktop, and Lightroom Mobile. So the full experience across all the different Lightroom products, right? It is, and they did a blog post, the Camera Raw team, and they did a little video. But I will tell you this. I was talking to a buddy of mine on the way here. Is, a lot of times, you guys know I'm sometimes critical of Adobe, right? It's like they'll do things in Lightroom and like, why'd you do this? And why didn't you? Oh, if we just had this or just have that. I've been working with this masking for a while, and I can tell you, I don't have anything that while I'm working in it that I go, man, I wish they let you blank. It is extremely well thought out. It is extremely well implemented. It's just they really, really did a good job with it. And it is an absolute game changer. I mean, you're going to love it and be able to do things you never dreamed you'd be able to do in Lightroom. So my hat's off to Adobe for really have talked to their customers, done a lot of research, and implemented it in a great way. It's fast. It's smart. It's like they thought of everything. It really is great. It takes some of the AI stuff from Photoshop and sneaks it into Lightroom, but they did it in a very clever way. So very, very excited that it's going to be coming out. It is supposed to launch at the Adobe Max conference, so around October 26th. Now, one more thing before we get to our topic. Piggybacking off of that, I've gone and rewritten my Lightroom Classic book. So I have a book called Lightroom Classic for Digital Photographers. It is my biggest mega book, and it's been since the very first days of Lightroom. In fact, I released the first copy of it before Lightroom was ever officially shipping. They had beta versions, and I wrote the book based on the beta version. And then when the real book came out, I updated it, and I've updated it again over the years. And it's my biggest book outside of my digital photography book series. So anyway, I've rewritten it. I've included all the new masking stuff, all the new features, and just other new stuff that it was that time for that book to be updated just for other reasons. But it's a whole fresh new thing. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon. You can, and let's see, maybe we'll pull it up here. It's called the Lightroom Classic Book for Digital Photographers. And so it's very exciting. It's available for pre-order now, and it will be available before the end of the year. It'll be, you can get it for the holidays and all that stuff. So go order it right now. Now we can't get that version of Lightroom yet. So the book they don't allow you to release the book before the software's out. So that's just an Adobe thing. And so, but anyway.
Well, especially because they could update things between now and then.
No, they can't.
Yeah.
No, it's done. No, they can't. It's, I mean, an emergency situation, but I'm in close contact with Adobe, and they've assured me it's done. This is just bug fixes now.
It's awesome that they have that feature in there. I know we've been wanting it for a while.
Oh, dude, it's so good. It's so good. It's better than you think it is. You're going to be very surprised what a slick job, and the stuff that you could do, like you doing stuff in it that's just it's not layers, but you're going to feel like you have a layers feature. That's how good it is. It's
because
very
you
good.
can can't you can mask the sky and just affect the sky, or you can say, oh, I want the foreground, or all that different stuff.
I want the foreground, I want the background, I want this just the clouds, just this.
Yep.
Oh yeah, dude, it's amazing what they've done. Go yesterday on lightroomkillertips.com. I posted Adobe's video and a link to their blog post. So if you want to run over that, but can I tell you this? I haven't seen anybody critical of it. Like I'm looking at the comments, like on my Facebook and everything, and everyone's like, "This looks amazing. This is great." Nobody's complaining about anything. There were some people that are worried. We're like, "Is the adjustment brush still there?" They didn't take stuff away. It's all the things you love are there. They're just better. It's just all better. So that's very exciting. All that's exciting stuff. Hey, I got a couple of shout outs here that Mr. Kuna would normally do, but he can't see them. So, hey, we're going to give a shout out to Alec, who's here from sunny Aberdeen. Stuart's here from Scotland. James from scenic North Phoenix. Don's here from sunny Boynton Beach, Florida. John's here from Milwaukee. Patricia says hello from North Florida. Jim's here from Bailey, Colorado. John's here from Las Vegas. Thank you guys all for joining us today. Well, I'm going to let Mr. Kuna lead this one off because, we as Mr. Kuna said, we have taken a number of people get upset. You give them a bad critique.
Do, yeah.
And here's one of the things. I'll tell you why I think. First off, I'm going to give you my overarching reason why I think people get upset. Because they were pretty convinced they had a great shot. They were pretty convinced they're doing great. And all of a sudden somebody tells them this isn't great. I think they submitted their photo to get a high five. They submitted that photo to hear us go, man, this is great. Good job. And then they got the complete opposite of it. Like, this is wrong and that's wrong and this, you got to fix this and you got to fix that. And it was stunning. Like, they're stunning. And, because it caught them off guard. They were expecting a high five, and they got a very low five. So that's where I think.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
well, and to kind of build on that, I think the reason a lot of times that happens, right, is because people aren't honest with each other. Even photographers with other photographers, that we give people high fives on images that we know they're not great, but we don't really want to offend them. I mean, I get it. But when you're submitting for a photo critique, that's a little different, But it is kind of pervasive or something that happens a lot where people just kind of go, great, nice, awesome, great photo, thumbs up. And then, like we've talked about before, our family members are like, oh, this is the best photo, awesome. I can't believe you take great photos, blah, blah, blah. And that builds you up to a point where you're like, well, of course I take great photos. Everybody's always told me I take great photos. My photos are amazing. And then you get like that deflation, right? So I think that definitely factors in there.
Hey, Erik, we have a comment here from Barry. Barry Morris says, I've been critiqued twice on the grid. It might have stung a bit, but everything they said was spot on. Yeah,
That's awesome.
We honestly, it's not that hard to critique photos because you're following a certain a path. Like for example, when we look at a photo, all right, what are we looking at? Like Erik and I were looking at your photo. The first thing that I always look at, and I've sat on the jury of so many awards panels, I can't even tell you, all over international ones and everything. When you're in a room with all the judges at one time, it's a very, very interesting thing to see how the initial impact of a photo waves through the crowd of judges. So let's say there's 12 judges, and you're one of them, and you're sitting there, and the images come up on screen. Now, I've never been in a competition or judge for a competition where you knew the artist's name. It's always just a blind, when they're doing that, they don't want you to go, oh, I know that guy, I'm voting for him, right? So that it's just pictures. And you're sitting there, and you're watching, and they come up, that's okay. And everyone's just kind of watching. And all of a sudden, an image comes up, and the whole room simultaneously is, ooh. So that's the first thing I look at, is what is my initial impact? What is my initial reaction to the photo? Like I open up the thing and I look, and look, guys, good photos stand out. They jump out at you. It's not like when you're in that room of judges, there's a pause and then it slowly builds. The image comes up and it's like this. Ooh, immediate. There's an immediate response.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so, and that one, you see that on the grid when we're critiquing. We'll have that initial reaction of like, oh, this is going to be good. Like we just feel it.
Right. So that's the very first thing that I'm looking at. The very first thing that I'm looking at is what is my initial reaction. Once we get past that, right, then we're going to go to all the other things and look at your composition. We're going to look at the lighting. If it's a person, we're going to look at the posing and the expression and what they're giving you. Then we're going to look at technical issues. Is your horizon line straight? Do you have junk coming in from the side? Is there distracting things in the background? Are there bright areas that are leading the viewer's eye away? There's all these things that we look at when you submit a photo. So being able to critique a photo is not that hard. And I was very fortunate years and years ago, and I wish I could give the guy credit. He was a very, very famous photographer, and one of those reminded me of Jay Maisel because he has such wisdom and stuff. And he sat with me because I had been chosen to be on this critique panel, and he's like, have you ever critiqued photos before? And I'm like, well, I critique them at my house every day when I see them, but no, I've never done an official thing. And he sat me down for about an hour and went through, here's what we're looking for, and here are the things. And it was phenomenal. It was kind of built the basis of what we've done all these years, which is following a path down this, down this trail of trying to look at all of the things, the artistic, the creativity, could barely get that word out. The creativity, the technical, all of the things. It's light. It's all these different things. And so when we do these, we're following a kind of I don't want to say a recipe, but it's kind of you're following a checklist.
It is, yeah.
You're following a checklist.
There's like a path, yeah.
Right. Now, I did a class on Kelby one. I'm not trying to plug it, but now that I brought it up, I'm going to mention it. I did a class called How to Critique Your Own Work. And it's so helpful because I actually do give you a checklist. I give you a checklist that you can download. They're PDFs. And it's like, if you're a portrait photographer, here's the technical things that make a photo good. Now you realize, and I say this many, many times in the class, you can follow every single technical thing that I did and still have a lifeless, soulless, bad photo. But at least it won't be for critiquing. Now we're getting lots of great comments, which is really, really good. And oh man, I want to read this one from Natalie because there's something that I so agree with what she's saying, and I want to build off what she said. So Erik, here's what Natalie wrote. Sometimes it's because you're emotionally invested in or attached to the photo.
Yep.
Someone else without the same experience, right, when you took the photo, does not see it through the same eyes. Impactful pictures tell a story in itself.
Well, and so Scott,
Boom.
That was interesting because I'm looking at my notes here, and that was the first thing that I was talking, or I had on my notes was, why do people get infuriated with the back of critique? And my thing is, I believe that it's because the image creation process is a very emotional, personal process, right? We have to plan, we have to travel, we have to wait, we have to work the scene, we have to struggle to get photos, we have to process the photos, we have to post the photos, we have to do this whole thing, and all everybody else sees is the photo. They just see that moment frozen in time. And the gut reaction for people is to defend the process, not the photo, right? And that's when you look at it, it's like we have to disconnect as photographers. And this is a big one. A lot of people I talk to, you have to disconnect from the process and just look at the photo. Right.
Yes.
And it's hard.
That's what I was going to talk about. Yeah. Hey,
right?
We're going to pick up with this. We have to take a short one. When we come back, I want to pick up with what Erik was talking about and with Natalie when she nailed it like you can't nail it any better. But I do want to build on what she said because and what Erik said because I have some experience with this, sadly. Stick around. And when we come back, we're going to pick up where Natalie got us rolling there. So don't go away. We're live here on The Grid.
Hi, I'm Dave Williams. I'm a travel photographer from the UK, and for the past few years I've been doing my photography on the side. I've got myself to a point where my photography is my full-time job now. This is the Photography Side Hustle. It's a class exclusive to Kelby One where I'm going to teach you everything I've learned about having photography as a second job so that you can make enough money to pay for your subscriptions, pay for your memberships, pay for new gear, new lenses, everything that you want. This is the Photography Side Hustle and it's exclusive to kelby1.com.
Have you ever gone to the movies and after spending your $30 on popcorn and a ticket, you walked out of the theater thinking, man, that movie was just an excuse to sell toys? But I have started to think that maybe I can look at those toys a different way. And I am a storyteller at heart. And the stories I want to tell are based on those cinematic universes that I love so much. So maybe I could use those toys to tell the stories that I want to tell. The only limit is my imagination. The best part is, you could do the same thing. So join me for my class on unlocking storytelling with toy photography, only on Kelby One.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by B&H Photo, the professional source since 1973.
All right, we're back. Hey, everybody. Scott Kelby here with Erik Kuna, Skyping in from Skypey land. All right, two things I want to talk about from Natalie's comment here, which was so great. The first one is and what she's saying about, and if you've heard this when I've talked, I used to talk about this on my seminar tour. So if on one of my tours you heard me and you already heard this, forgive me. But for those of you that you haven't, she wrote, somebody else with the same experience does not see it through the same eyes. So one of the things is, it was a beautiful day. It was a gorgeous sunset. You were there with your girlfriend or your wife, and it was a perfect night. You ate outside that night, and it was just great, and everything was wonderful, and you had so much fun. It was really, really great. And when you look at that picture, you see all of that. You have the great memories and the emotional attachment to where you were and what happened. It was the perfect night. And I look at it and go, oh, sunset. You know what I mean? I don't have any emotional, and that's all I can judge it on. I don't see the emotion that Natalie's talking about. I don't see that you were there and you were with your wife and it was so great. I can only judge the photo on the photo. I look at it and go, all right, it's another sunset shot. And I don't get any feeling from the shot other than what the shot gives me. Number two is this happened to a friend of mine. So a friend of mine took this photo, and I'm going to lead up to something that is ties into this. He took this photo, and it was not a good photo. It was everybody that saw it would go, what's with that photo? Like, people would come to me and go, did you see that photo? What's with that, right? It was not a good photo. And this guy was in his portfolio, and finally, we literally had to do a portfolio intervention where all of his friends got together and said, we're not leaving this room until you take that photo out of your portfolio. And he's like, why? I love that photo. We're like, we know you do, and it sucks. You got to take it out. So here's what's happening, and this is another thing. So there's two things that I want to warn photographers about. Number one, well, there's three. Number one, we don't see that same experience, the emotional experience, the beautiful night in the air and all in the image. All we see is the image. Number two is sometimes you love a photo because you've always wanted to take a photo like that. So at some point in your career, you saw somebody else's photo that was, let's just say it's of a giraffe, right? You've always wanted a giraffe photo, and you finally got one. And you're like, there's my giraffe photo. But it's just not a good photo. It is that thing that you wanted.
Yeah.
So
it's trophy hunting. Trophy hunting is what they call that.
Right, trophy hunting.
Yeah.
So you've got this thing that you always wanted, and you see it, you're like, I got the giraffe shot. I always wanted that. But it's just not a good photo. And number three is we don't care how hard it was to make the photo, which is what I think Erik was saying. Is like, for example, the story I would tell in my seminar is this. All right, so you drive out to this one location. You've been researching on Google Earth, and you find out where it is, and you go down there, and you have to kind of scramble down the side of the mountain. You didn't realize how hard it was going to be, and you finally got all the way down there. You got all your gear with you, but the shot you really want is out in the middle of the stream. So you kind of wade through the water, and you climb up on this rock, and your gear's like almost falling off in the water, and you're grabbing all this stuff, and the spray's kind of coming up on you. You're getting ready to take the shot, and here comes a bear. Oh my God, there's a bear coming right at you, and you're on this rock and you don't know what to do and all. And luckily a fish jumps up and the bear gets the fish and leaves, and you're like, whew, and you take the shot and you're like, here, what do you think? And I go, oh, it's a stream. I don't see or feel any of the stuff that you did. It's just a stream shot, and it's okay. It's all right. It's not great. But when you look at that photo, you think of the sweat and the time you put in. So when you send that photo into the grid and Erik and I look at it, what do we say?
And we say it's a snapshot of a stream.
It's a snapshot of a stream, and you get upset because you've got this other thing built into it that Erik and I do not see. There's a comment here from Chris Wiley. Chris says, people get upset because their friends and family give them praise, and they tell them they're the next Ansel Adams when they are far from it. I tell everyone that looks at my work, tell me the truth about the photo. I can't grow from half-truths to spare my feelings. If my photo sucks, it sucks, and I need to know it. And he's right. And so this brings us back to what Erik and I were talking about earlier, which is why did you submit an image for critique?
That's actually
was
the first thing on my list. Is like we really have to dive into that.
Yeah.
Like, why did you submit a photo for a critique?
Because you're asking someone to give you a critical review of your image. Now, the critical review might be, as it often is on the grid, this is fantastic. You're doing a great job. Don't change a thing. Just keep doing
up,
more
do
of that.
More of that.
And it's not mostly what we do on the grid, but every grid we have some great photographers that submit images, and we open them, and you're hard-pressed to say anything other than a high five, great job. But most of them, there are one or many of those things. Either it doesn't have any impact, like we open it, it's like, it's a stream, or it has technical issues that can be fixed. The reason why we do a blind critique show is to help. That's the reason why we do it. And it's not just to help the person who sent in the photo. It's to help everybody watching. And we get it all the time where people say, this is my favorite episode you guys do when you do because I learned so much about my own photography. That's the whole idea. It's so whether you get your own photo critiqued or not, you can still learn from that by seeing, that I shouldn't have bright spots in the background. The horizon line should be straight. I shouldn't let a tree branch come in here. The lighting matters. You'll start to realize that there's these patterns. And if you were to go watch 10 grid episodes, you'd probably go, people have the same problems with their photos again and again and again. But knowing that, I doubt that people that have submitted their photos to the grid have never seen the grid before. They've never seen, they just said, I have no idea what to expect. I don't know what they're going to do.
I'm just going to submit my photo.
I'm just going to blindly submit my images. Kevin Scott's got a comment here. He says, you can't submit a photo for a critique and not expect critical feedback. That's the whole point. Every photo has room for improvement, even if it's a small improvement. And also, critiques vary based on the reviewer. And that's absolutely true. They are based on the reviewer. And so I've had some very nice critiques. I've mostly not had nice critiques. The people I've gone to, and this is important, I try to get critiques from people I really respect. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a famous photographer who kept trying to get me to let him do a critique of my photos. And I wouldn't do it because I knew the reason he wanted to do it was not because he wanted to help me. It was because he wanted to help himself. He wanted to make sure that he was up here and I was down here. Now, critiques have been some of the best things that have ever happened to me. Some of the meanest critiques have been the greatest opportunity to build.
Absolutely.
Because when I'm looking at something and I think it's great and I'm like, I was so wrong and all, but I try to, and this is how to deal with a bad critique. If the person that gave it to you is someone whose opinion you respect, right? And you should not get a critique, by the way, from someone's opinion you do not respect. And that's why I never let that photographer who kept saying, I need to talk to you. I'm seeing a pattern we need to discuss and all. And I'm like, no, thank you. No, we're not going to discuss that. No, because then I knew this guy and I knew what was up. No, if Joe McNally came and said that, I'd be like, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk
right.
Because I really need to hear what you're saying.
Right, because you know what? Joe's heart is in the right place. Like, I know that Joe is trying to, if Joe says to me, we need to sit down and talk about your work, Joe sees something that I can fix. Joe's not trying to elevate himself above me because Joe is already so above me. He does not need a stepping stool and doesn't need to use me as it, right? But even if it's another photographer, as long as I respect their opinion and this is key, that their heart is in the right place. And I think sometimes in photo clubs, because I've seen this happen, there's a lot of competitiveness in a local photo group. There's definitely a pecking order, And I've seen, unfortunately, because I've been the speaker at groups and stuff.
Yeah,
and I've seen
the protection. And
we're in this group, and you need to
and
be in that group. And we know the insider stuff, and we all approve our photos, but your photos are bad, and you can tell that they're making sure that they keep their status by making sure you keep your status down. And that's not good, and when you see someone emerging and getting better, and you need to celebrate that, and you need to work with them and help them. So when you choose someone to do your critique, I think one of the first things that you should do, which will help you to deal with a bad critique, is to get critiqued by someone whose heart and intentions are in the right place. When Erik and I do these critiques, we do them to help. And there is nothing, and Erik will tell you, there's nothing more exciting to Erik and I than when we hear from someone that said, you did a critique like Barry Morris earlier. You did a critique of mine, and I was upset, but then I took it to heart, and now look what I've done. And we see their photos, and we're like, yes. That's the most exciting thing for us, is that's a win.
Absolutely.
It is not a win to tell somebody they have bad photos. It's a win to see them make great photos, to take the advice that you gave them and turn it around. And sometimes it happens immediately. Like, we'll have a grid on Wednesday, and Friday night we've got pictures from them that said, hey, I went right out and I tried the things you said. And for them to say, oh my gosh, this is so much better. That's a dream for us. That's our home run.
Yeah. And that's really, and I would say that, and I wrote that down, at 9 times out of 10, that's the path that happens. You always have that one person out of 10 that I would say, like when we were talking about like the types of people, there are the people that submit critiques. They want to improve and they want to get better, and they're open for the feedback.
Yeah,
and that person, the critique process is totally for you. However, there's that one person that their photos they feel like are the best. There's nothing but perfection coming out of their camera.
Yep.
And
they just want validation.
They're just close.
I'm great, right?
They want the pat on the back, the accolades, and they just want to move on. That if you're like that, that's okay, but it's probably not for you to get your photos critiqued, because you're asking for open and honest feedback. And like the comment earlier, I think every photo has an ability to be improved. There's not like anything that's like perfect, but there's photos like we say that, hey, just keep on doing what you're doing and go down that path because you're on the right path.
Right.
So, 9 times out of 10, but like, I think once people calm down, that initial reaction happens. And then once people calm down, they tend to say pretty much consistently, I agree with what you were saying, and my photography is better because of it.
Well, now I agree. I didn't agree at the time.
I didn't agree at the time.
But once I wasn't upset.
9 times out of 10, they'll come back. And like Scott said, that the best is, and I've seen this over the years, of people going from, they had good photos, we told them some stuff, they started working it, just like you said, they started like improving right away. And now, years later, their photos are to the point where I'm like, wow, they're so great at it now, and it's all because they were open to that feedback and open to moving down that path to becoming a better photographer.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a short one. When we come back, we're going to pick up with this, and I've got a couple of stories to tell. We're going to talk about some of the comments we got after last week's show, and we'll be right back, so don't go away. Coming up next, more fun stuff.
Hey everybody, Erik Kuna here, and I'm here with my new class. It's called Telephoto Astrophotography for Beginners. What we're focused in this class is those narrow field, deep space astrophotography shots. And as you can see, we're here in light polluted Tampa, Florida, and we still can capture stunning, amazing images. So anybody can do this, especially if it's something where you have a camera, you have a telephoto lens, you have a tripod. We're gonna show you in this class the little things that you need to add to start making shots like this. So join me at my new class on kelby1.com.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Canon.
Casually doing it.
Hey, we are back. And Eric and I are just chatting away on the break, just chatting away.
One of those topics that just keeps on going for us.
All right. So next week, right, Eric? Next week is our blind critique
blind photo
episode.
critiques next week. So, yeah, we'll be doing blind photo critiques next week. So make sure, if this is for you and if this is something where you're open, you're wanting to improve, you're wanting to, get that feedback, go ahead and submit those images for next week's show.
Now, you notice that when I asked people to submit, and I asked the day before, so next Tuesday on my social media, on my Twitter and on Facebook and on LinkedIn, I will be putting out a thing that says, hey, submit your images for blind critique. I will be doing that next Tuesday, and then you'll have till Wednesday at noon to get them in. And we'll get a lot of them. We'll get tons and tons and tons. So if your picture doesn't get chosen, it's only because we only have a limited amount of time. So, we can't show everybody. So we'll probably show about 15 to 20 is what we generally get through. What I wanted to mention was we got some comments last week from some of our critiques from unhappy viewers. So they were very unhappy. So, Eric, I'll let you kick it off with your first unhappiness.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that the unhappiness sometimes settles around is this idea that people think that as you're critiquing, that I should understand everything that went into the photo. Like I should ask for, like what was your intent with this photo? But I think that's where there's that misconception there with intent. I believe intent to be something that is for you, right? That your intention to photography or to make that photo was for you, right? It wasn't for everybody else. Meaning, are you intending to make a great shot? Are you intending to communicate a certain thing with your photo? Whether you do that or not is up to the photo and what the success of the photo is. And that's what we're judging. Like, I think that's where what Scott was talking about when we see the photo and we go, wow, it immediately speaks to us. And we go, it doesn't matter the backstories. It doesn't matter all the things that went into it. It doesn't matter what you were trying to put into the photo. The photo is the photo. And I think that's where when people start understanding that and step back from that, and that's the big thing is and that's a hard thing to do as a photographer, is to step back and look at the photo without all those preconceived notions that you have in the photo. And once you explain that to somebody, and that's where I got into a conversation with somebody, started talking, went back and forth, spent a good amount of time because I knew that they're starting to see it, but they just need to have it unlocked. And I spent a good 20 minutes going back and forth. And then finally it was like, oh, I see what you're talking about. I appreciate what you guys are doing. And it was like, okay, there's that breakthrough moment. But it took getting over that hurdle of, there's this misconception, like I said, that we're supposed to understand everything about your photo. And it's like, right. That's the beauty of a photo, right? This is a moment frozen in time for all eternity that is like captured there, and you've created it. And that's another thing that happens a lot of times is people take snapshots. We'll say, well, you just take a snapshot, and they'll get so offended because they go, well, but I took it with a 5D Mark IV, and I had the 16 to 35 lens. I had everything you guys told me was to make a perfect photo, and you're calling it a snapshot. And the gear did not make it a snapshot. It's your intent. Your intent made it a snapshot.
Now, one of the comments that Eric got was basically saying, look, on some other site, they allow you, when you upload a photo, to tell what you were intending, to write the intention. And what's wrong with the grid is you don't allow us to do that.
Yes.
You don't, and so here's what I read that as. Here's what they're saying, essentially. I know this photo doesn't really look good. I know it's not good, but let me tell you why it's better than it looks. Let me defend it because you think it's bad. You looked at the photo and you're like, this isn't a good photo, but it's better because here's why. What I was trying to do was, I don't care. I could care less. It was hard to take. I was trying to show man's inhumanity to man. Jay Maisel said it best. When your photo hangs in a museum, you are not there to defend it. You're not there to say, see this photo? It doesn't look very good, does it? But let me tell you, it's actually better. I'm going to tell you the story behind it, and then you're going to say, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. And that was the crux of what the guy was saying.
We have those people in our lives, right, Scott?
Oh, yes, yes, we do.
We have those people who the story comes before showing you the photo. And I'm like, just show me the photo. Like, I don't need the story, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to justify all the things before the photo so you get emotionally invested into it. But that's, to your point, that's not what people do with photography. You know, you don't have, at the gallery, you walking around to every one of your photos and explaining everything about the photo. It just has to stand on its own. And when you see Jay's work, that's what he does. He focuses on and that's what I love about it, he focuses on putting all those things that people try to talk about, the emotion and the scene and the feeling, he puts those in the photo. He puts those in the photo. He doesn't need to sit there and wax eloquently about the photo. He puts it in the photo. And that's what's great about his work.
Now, I don't mind, and I'm not talking about not telling the story of the photo.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, if you have a great photo, I'd love to hear, like when Erik went out and took the photo of the something K, what was the name of the boat? Donna K. I loved hearing the story of how he got out there.
Yeah.
But you got to realize, I saw the photo and it had immediate impact, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is a signature photo of yours. This is great. And then I'm interested to hear the story. Not in defense of why it's not good, but I want to hear the story of how the heck did you get that, right? And Joe McNally is the greatest storyteller of those things. Joe has a photo, and sometimes it's very simple, and sometimes it's very complex, but I love hearing what's behind the photo after I'm in love with the photo. I don't want to look at a photo and go, it's not very good, but I'm going to try to defend it and explain to you why the photo that you think looks bad isn't as bad. It's not quite as bad as you think. No, it's as bad. It's exactly as bad as I think.
Scott, it's not that the photos are bad.
It's not bad, generally.
It's usually
using
the photos are okay or
meh.
Good.
Yeah.
They're okay or good.
It's okay.
And that's if okay and good, I mean, that's fine for you. I mean, then you don't really need critiques. If just okay is okay, then you're good.
All right, I got some comments. So John Dukes says, I look at photos I took 5 years ago that I thought were amazing at the time. And today I look at them and I wonder, what the heck was I thinking? John, I'm telling you, I am with you there. So last week, John, I ran across some images that I used in a slideshow when I was teaching at the Santa Fe workshops in New Mexico, probably 10 or 12 years ago. And I had to give a presentation in front of all of the students and all of the faculty as well, as part of being one of the teachers. They have a night where they invite the townspeople in. Talk about stress. They invite the townspeople in. They invite all the instructors, all the staff, and all the students to come watch your slideshow and presentation. And so I had to put together this presentation, which I did. And at the time I was like, well, these look okay. I look at them now, I'm like, oh, those people must have been, what the hell's going on with this guy? I look at him now and I feel the same way you do. That's not 5 years. You want to go back 5 years, I already cringe. You go back 10 years, 12 years, you're suicidal. But that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to grow. If you go back and look at your work from 5 years ago and 10 years ago, and you're like, I'm pretty much doing that today, you have not grown. Your stuff today is supposed to look better than it did 5 years ago. If you don't look back and cringe, you're not getting any better.
Well, and
the more Scott, you cringe, the better you've gotten.
Yeah, well, and Scott, one thing there, and I shared this actually just this last week with a group of people, and that's where I was talking about, the one thing that I think sometimes we get caught up in as photographers is looking at other people's work and judging ourselves against other people's work. And really, honestly, I think that's the wrong way to do it. What we should do is look at our own work. And be able to look at our own work and say, hey, was I better than last year? Was I better than the year before? because honestly, that's what you want, right? You don't want to be like, oh, I'm just striving to replicate or duplicate or do something like somebody else.
Right.
You want your photography to get better and better and better. And that's honestly why we do these shows, is for other people's photography to get better and better and better over the years. That's the goal, is to grow. Like you said, that's the key. We want to grow. We want to get better. But you got to do that by looking at your own work and being able to honor yourself and saying, hey, look I did get better, and I did get better. But there's other people, the people that I see that work actually either declines or goes down or doesn't go up. It's usually because they're set in their ways.
Yeah, they're stubborn.
They're locked in. They're stubborn.
They don't agree.
They're going to do it the way they're going to do it. They're the people out on location where I shoot with them, and they're telling people just misinformation. They're telling people just the wrong information, and it's just like, wow. But that's where it is. If your work is improving and you're getting better, shouldn't that be the goal?
Yeah, that is the goal.
Yeah.
Hey, Marianne Dent has a comment here. She says, I started in photography by joining a local camera club almost 30 years ago. Seeing the slides and listening to the judges' critiques month after month, year after year, was so valuable to me. See, I really feel the same way. Like watching other people get critiqued, I think is such an eye-opening thing. Very important question from Patty here. So Patty, P-A-D-D-Y, Patty asks, so how do you move on from a negative critique? Well, Patty, that's the overarching thing that we've been talking about. The way to get over a negative critique is to take the steps that the critiquers gave you, the things that they said were wrong, and try to fix them. Now, if you fix them and they're still bad, then you can go, well, maybe that wasn't a good critique. But I think the way you move on is to number one, understand, why was I given that critique? Are these things legitimate? And if you go, yeah, they probably kind of have a point and stuff, then how do I fix these? The way to move on is to fix it. The only way to deal with a bad critique is to do something about it, right? If someone says, hey, you have a dent in your car. Oh, there's a big dent. You should paint that. And you go, I don't know. I mean, it's not that bad. And then 6 months later, the dent's still there. You did nothing to move on. And every time you see that dent, it's going to kind of, but if you fix that dent, you buffed it, you had it painted over, it looks great. Now it's a sense of pride. Now you look at it and go, yeah, I fixed that. You gotta fix the things that are wrong with your photography. That critique is leading you to fixing the problem, right? So the way to get over a bad critique is to do something about it, is to do what so many people have done, like Erik was talking, where someone goes, we give them a bad critique, 2 days later, they're resubmitting the photos and saying, did I get it right here? And sometimes we're like, okay, this is closer, do this and then the other, and they'll send us another one. Is this it? And we're like, yes, that's it. That's how you get over a bad critique. Yep. You have to, if you're not growing from it, if you're not building from it, and I'm telling you, I know you guys have heard me talk about some of the bad critiques that I've gotten from some of the instructors that I respect. We have 110 instructors teaching at Kelby 1. And when they come through here, very often I'll get to go to lunch or get to go to dinner. And sometimes I'll say, hey, can you take a look at my work and stuff and give me an honest critique? And man, some of those critiques have been brutal. They've been awful. But in every case, I followed exactly what they said. If they said this photo shouldn't be in your portfolio, boom, it's out. You need to stop doing this, I stopped doing that. I so many things that I changed or did was because I asked people who I respect. I got a bad review, but I followed exactly what they said to do. Don't ask for advice if you're not going to take it, right? Don't even ask people for advice. I'm going to ask for your advice. And so I have a friend of mine who he asks you for advice. He doesn't really want to hear what you have to say unless you're agreeing with what he already thinks. He's just calling you for more validation of what he already believes, right? He has a thought that and a path that he's going to go, and you are like, oh, don't go there. But he's going to go there. And if you say, ooh, dude, that's like a bad idea, he's upset because he just wanted you to go, yes, do that thing. That's exactly right. Don't ask for advice if you're not willing to take it. Because when you're asking for advice, that means I'm not sure. What should I do? So when you send in your photo, you should be thinking, I'm not sure if this is good. I'm not sure if this is going in the right direction. Let me know. If we say, yeah, this is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, and that's wrong, write it down and go fix it. That's how you get over a bad review.
And that's exactly what I had written down for that same. It was funny because Scott and I we shared our list right before the show, and it was very, very similar on topics. And that was I had written down embrace. The best thing to do is embrace the critique, right? That I think the gut reaction is to reject it. The gut reaction is to go, hey, they don't know what they're talking about, all that stuff. But then how you get better is by embracing it. And that's one of the things, even in my life, with critiques, you got those painful ones where, I've had, somebody told me years ago, very famous photographer, like, hey, you need to slow down. And I took that to heart, and now I preach that same thing, because at the end of the day, a lot of times we're running around too fast, not absorbing the scene, not absorbing the moment, not, working it before we even take the shot. And you got to visualize the photo before you take the photo, at least for my styles of photography. And that takes a lot of time slowing down and really analyzing things, and that's where, if I wouldn't have had somebody tell me that years ago, I'd still be running around, taking snapshots.
Yeah, and think about this, Erik, and all of you watching. So you're getting a critique from Erik and I. You send it in to us, right? And whoever our guest is, if we have a guest critiquer as well. But imagine if you became really famous. Like, can you imagine on a day-to-day basis what celebrities, superstars, athletes? So look at last week. So the Bucks played. Who did we play? I don't know. Oh, we played the Rams.
Are we talking about this weekend?
Yeah, last weekend. So it's the Bucks.
It was painful.
Right.
It was painful.
And our quarterback is Tom Brady, who is not even arguably really the greatest quarterback of all time. So what's everybody do on Monday morning, the day after the Bucks lost? Criticize Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback in the history of football. You think you're Tom Brady. No one's going to criticize you Monday morning. Well, Brady missed this ball and he should have done this and he should have done that. And they're criticizing the Super Bowl winning coach, 2 Super Bowls or 3 Super Bowls he's won. They're critiquing Gronk, Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer. I mean, you've got all these incredible players. No matter how good you are, people are critiquing your performance the very next morning. He's the greatest of all time. Imagine if you were the greatest photographer of all time, right? And I don't know who that would be. Now, some people would say Ansel Adams. Some people would say Cartier-Bresson. People will be all over. There is no consensus on who the greatest photographer is of all time. But there is a consensus on who the greatest quarterback of all time is, and he still gets his butt kicked the Monday after where everybody tells him how bad he was, and it's just ridiculous. So however bad it is for you, just remember, be glad you're not the greatest photographer of all time, or you'd hear it 100 times more. So just wanted to keep that in mind, and that's basically it. And I'm really glad that Patty asked that question, because that's what that's the point we were trying to make the whole time, is the way to get past a bad critique and how to handle it is to take it to heart as far as what to do. Don't take it personally. It's not and that's why we don't even know whose name. Like, we're looking at the photo, we don't know if it's a woman or a man, a kid.
Talked about that years ago. Like, that's the one thing we didn't want it to be personal.
Oh gosh, can I tell you a horrible story? This is so bad. A few years ago at Photoshop World Orlando, I did a thing called Scott's Photography Challenge. And I brought all of these people into a room. And I don't tell them what. I just said, come in and bring in a camera. And I gave them a photography challenge. I don't want to tell you what it is in case you wind up coming to Photoshop World. But I give them a photography challenge, and it's timed. When they come back in, we get everybody's photos. Now, it's limited, I think, what was it, Erik? 75 people?
I think it was 60 people. Yeah. And it was like broken up into different groups.
Yeah, we break you up into group. When you come back in, we take your images, and I critique all of the images. Oh, the story is so sad. So I go through the images, and they're all pretty good. And then there's this one image comes up, and it's just, this is not good. It's not really in focus, and it's just, there was a lot of things wrong with it. And I'm like, oh, come on. I said, look, you did this and you did that, because we had been seeing a pattern of people doing this thing, and then here's one that takes it. And I said, you got it. Why? What made you think to do this, that? And I was straight with him. I don't know the person's name. I have no idea who it is. I'm going through it. I'm going through it and go through. Oh, so we go through the rest of them. And there were some that got a harsher critique, but I was like, come on, you're doing that thing again. It's the 15th one of these. You can't do this. You can't do that. And let's move on. All right. And somebody wins an award. They win an actual physical award, and they win prizes, stuff. It's very fun. It's very fun, and it's challenging. And there are people that have written that it was the best part of the conference, whole conference for them. So it's a neat thing. We get to the end and we're tearing down, and I've got to get to my next class. Like, I got a next class all the way at the other end of the hallway or whatever, and my assistant's there. And we wait, and a woman comes up, and she's waiting very patiently, and she gets to the end. And she says, I'm going to have to look at camera 2. Is camera 2 working? Is camera 2 over there? We'll use camera 1 twice. No, there it is. Okay. She comes up and she says, hi, I want to talk to you about one of the critiques. And I said, was one of the photos that I critiqued was bad, was it yours? And she's like, no, it was my teenage daughter's. And she started crying. Not the mom, the daughter crying, and she left the room. And I felt so horrible, and I told the mom, look, I critiqued everybody in here as though they were adults. If I'd have known this was a teenager, I actually would have tempered my results. But I'm looking at this as a grown, everyone here. I didn't even notice there was a teen in the room, right? But it was a mom. She's not a photographer. She's there with her teen daughter, and her daughter got an adult critique, the kind of critique that I would give if Erik gave me the photo or somebody else gave me the photo. And anyway, I could not have felt worse about it. I just couldn't. And then anyway, she pointed out who her daughter was. And so after my next class, I found her and I sat her down and I talked her through the whole thing. And first off, I apologized and all, but I said, here's what to get from it. And we talked about it. And she kind of said, oh, okay. Oh, I mean, she kind of came around. But I felt just awful because I would have tempered the critique. Now, you may be watching out there and said, Scott, if you temper the critique, you're not helping her photography. If you temper it, then and to some extent that's true. But I did get the chance to talk to her and explain to her why she got the critique she did. And she, of course, explained why it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But we came to an understanding where she's like, you're right. Next time I go out there, I am going to try that. I'll do that differently. I won't make that mistake again. And that's the best you can hope for. But I cannot tell you how awful I felt as the father of a teenage daughter. How awful I felt to have that happen. So it was all right. So,
but at the same time, that's where we do have to grow from those things, and that's how we get better. Is we learn and we move on. I mean, yeah, I think sometimes, I'll be the first to admit, sometimes we can get a little snarky. We can get a little, like just a little, I guess that's the word, snarky.
You know what it is? It's when we get frustrated.
It is. It's like when the
we're like,
horizon line
come on,
crooked,
fix the
when
horizon
the
line.
line is crooked for the 50th time, that show. I mean, it kind of gets to that point. And I remember being there, and that's what it was. It was just these things that kept on happening over and over and over. And us in the room, you have to start realizing if this is happening consistently, well, maybe it's something we all need to work on. But then, that's where sometimes we take it personally, and it's not personal.
Yeah, it's not. Hey, we got to wrap up. We got one more comment here from LD Grace. Now, LD Grace could be Larry.
Oh,
could be Larry Grace. He said
LD Grace. It's probably the famous LD Grace.
It's probably the LD Grace. So it says, my first critique from Scott Kelby many years ago was hard, but it stayed with me and I learned from his comment and it helped me to grow and get better with my photography. Now, if that is Larry Grace, which I'm guessing it's Larry Grace, Larry Grace is a phenomenal photographer. And if I helped in any little way, I am thrilled, because Larry he is one of the leading aviation photographers in America today. Now, Larry could shoot your foot and get a good shot of it. It's like he could shoot whatever he shoots. But if that's Larry Grace. Now, if it's not Larry Grace, I still love you. Oh, it is. I just saw his, there it is. They just pulled up his webpage. That's LD Grace. That's Larry Grace. Larry is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal person, but he's also a phenomenal photographer and literally one of and a great teacher. Like, if you go and learn from Larry, he's a very, very good teacher, and we're trying to talk Larry into doing a class for us.
Those inside tracks, especially when it comes to the aviation stuff.
Oh yeah, and we're trying to talk Larry into recording a class for us on location. So he's got a lot to share, and I've sat through Larry's critiques. I've watched Larry critique other people. I've sat in the back of the room, and I always think, man, these people don't realize how great what Larry's teaching them. His critiques are worth the whole price of the conference. Okay. Time is up. We are way over time, and we've got some prizes to give out. So congratulations to Paul Millsaps. You won the 7-point system book. The accessory kit, the Platypod accessory kit, goes to Patty, Paddy. Jack Codesian, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Jack won the On One No Noise. Congratulations. You're going to love that. And the Nick collection goes to Sean Enerson. So congratulations to all of you. Here's how you collect your prize. Email us at, and this is very important, gridprize@kelby1.com. That email address again is gridprize@kelby1.com. We will confirm that you're really you. We'll get your shipping address and we'll send you the goodies or email you the goodies and download links and stuff like that. Thank you to all of our sponsors for making that possible. I will wrap up with a very short story from last week. There was a guy, and I don't remember what his photo was. Let's just say it was a bear. It's a bear day. And I said, you've overprocessed this photo. You added too much of this or too much of that. And he came back and said, I didn't add any of that stuff. You're wrong. And he goes, I want you to tell me where I overprocessed this photo, because I didn't do any of that. And I came back and said, look, I know exactly what you did, but whatever. And he came back again, and his exact words were, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I did not put any of these things on. And then he said he didn't put on this other thing that he actually said in the previous comment he had put on. So I said, well, then if you didn't use those sliders in Lightroom, you added a plug-in. You applied a plug-in. It could have been Nick. It could have been On One. Absolutely has to. Eric knows the photo. Yeah, there's no hiding this one. Now, he came back and apologized and said, I was upset and I was cranky, and he was very nice in apologizing, but he did not ever acknowledge whether he did use a plug-in or not.
I think I told Scott, if that's straight out of his camera, he needs to throw his camera away.
You need to throw that camera in the trash because it's broken. It's not. It's a plug-in. It's just it's some processing.
It's
effect. A plug-in. It's some plug-in or something.
Like you got like your JPEG processing in your camera turned up to max or something. It's
now,
just like,
that's not the first time I've heard the sentence, you don't know what the hell you were talking about. But in this case, I've been using Lightroom a while. I'm getting pretty good at it. Same thing with Photoshop. Kind of getting the hang of it. And
you might know it.
I look at that and I'm like, that's not out of camera, bro.
Telling you.
Yeah.
And if it is, throw that thing away.
Throw it away. All right. Thanks to my crew for coming in and doing the grid here. We have such a great crew here. I'm so blessed to be surrounded by such great and talented people. Mr. Kuna, thank you for joining us from space. Thanks. Always nice to see you from space. We have an interesting video to share with you next week when we start the blind critiques that will set us up for the blind critiques. Don't forget, Tuesday we'll be asking for them. Go sign up for the Portrait Photography Conference right now while you can get the early bird special. And, can I mention one thing about this? One of the instructors for this conference, I asked very specifically for Rob Foldy. Now, you probably recognize Rob as a pro sports photographer, and he's shot for everybody. He worked for the Falcons for a number of years. He's a tremendous photographer. But the reason why I specifically asked Rob to be one of the instructors was, so one of the things you do when, like, he was shooting for Getty for many years, one of the things that you have to do is they have a press day where you photograph all the athletes, right? So, you know, you got the guy from AP Wire Service and the guy from Zuma and the guy from Getty and all, and you set up a lighting setup, and each player from the team comes and you take a portrait of them. And I've seen these for years and years and years, you know, at these pro days. Rob does the best ones I've ever seen. Like, Rob's look like the cover of Sports Illustrated. I look at what other people did that day because people will post them on their Instagram, and you look at Rob's. That guy has got the process for making pro sports portraits down to an art and a science, and he's so good. And I'm like, I got to have him at this conference. So that's specifically why if that interests you, making top pro looking sports portraits. Now, that could be for your high school, for your middle school, for whatever. He's going to teach you the lighting and the concepts and the setup. But I asked Rob to be there. I'm like, dude, you got to be at this conference. You know,
Scott, what's interesting too about Rob is, because I've been talking to him about the classes he's teaching, and you know, if you look at it, like, what he's really good at, too, is being able to do it quickly. He's got these tips and tricks and techniques because a lot of times, with him working with top athletes, you have a few minutes, right?
Yeah, they don't give you a lot of time.
But, you know, if you're shooting like a team, like a high school team, you've got a bunch of athletes you got to get through. So having the ability to do that quickly and to get a bunch of different looks, like one after another, he's very good at that. And that's where he's going to teach that. And what's cool about this is he's going to teach that live at the conference. So,
ooh, nice.
Really cool. Like, well, anyway, actually going to show you how to do it.
If you want to blow people's mind with your sports portraits, you gotta, if you do nothing else, go watch Rob's class as part of this portrait photography conference. And again, it's archived for an entire year after the conference, so you can go back and watch any classes you missed, rewatch classes you want to watch again. But I wanted to call Rob out because I specifically asked for him to be there. And like, Rob, you got to teach that stuff that you do because it's so good. All right, guys, thanks very much. We will catch you guys next week for our blind photo critiques. And on behalf of me and Mr. Kuna and the team here at Kelby One, have a fun day.
Hello, I'm Leonard Johnson, and I'm very excited to be here doing my first class at Kelby One. Now I'm going to teach you how to take your images from start to finish with lights, beauty dishes, V-flats, tethered through a computer with Capture One, Capture Pilot, so my makeup artist can follow through. So creating beauty portraits, fashion images. I enjoy doing beauty photography because I like being around people. I think I'm different from other photographers because of the way I shoot. I work with a mood board and I follow that mood board from start to finish to create whatever look I'm going for. And I'm working closely with my team. So creating a team is the way to go if you want to elevate those images. And that's the way I do it to separate me from the crowd. So in this class, I'm going to take you through how to create impactful images from start to finish. So come join me in my latest class at kelby1.com.
Would you believe us if we told you that you could fit studio lighting in your pocket? Well, Lytra has made it possible. Lytra is a global award-winning brand that designs and manufactures professional-grade camera lights that are compact, rugged, and waterproof. Whether you're using Lytra gear in a photo studio or underwater, Lytra's mission is to provide content creators with flexible and unlimited lighting tools that can mount on any camera, anywhere. Their lights come with a high CRI or color rendering index, making them some of the most color accurate lights in the industry. Due to the light's compact and rugged design, photographers are able to use the lights in ways that their studio lighting never could. Lytra has also made multiple lighting accessories available to fit your every need as a creator. Whether you're shooting portraits, nailing a product shot, or even flying your drone, they have got you covered. Lytra enables photographers and filmmakers to focus on their craft and create something beautiful. What will you create?
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the world's most compact tripod base.